Tonight, reading from Bhagavad-Gita as it is, chapter 18, text 18, text 54, page 851. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. Asosati Nakanchati. Samastabeshu Bhuteshu. Mad Bhaktim Lavate Param. Word for word. Brahma Bhuta. Be one with the Absolute. Prasanatma. Fully joyful. No. Never. Society. Laments. No. Never. Quantity. Desires. Sama. Equally disposed. Sarveshu. All. Bhuteshu. Living entities. My bhakti. My devotional service. Labate. Gains. Param. Transcendental. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. One is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman, never laments nor desires to have anything, is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state he attains pure devotional service unto me. Om Aryantarandasya Jana Jana Slakaya Sakshu Imtam Jaina Tasme Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tanti Svapadantikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman, never laments nor desires to have anything, is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state he attains pure devotional service unto me. So reading from Bhagavad-Gita from 49 to 55, we're talking about Jnana Yoga to bhakti-yoga, or pure devotional service. I need to close the window, yeah, too much noise. Purport. To the impersonalist, achieving the Brahma-Bhuta stage, beginning with the Absolute, is the last word. But for the personalist, a pure devotee, one has to go further to become engaged in pure devotional service. This means that one who is engaged in pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord is already in a state of liberation, called Brahma-Bhuta, oneness with the Absolute. Without being one with the Absolute, Supreme, the Absolute, one cannot render service to Him. In the Absolute conception, there is no difference between the served and the servitor, yet the distinction is there in a higher spiritual sense. So I'll speak on this and I'll read the rest of the purport. So this is the from 49 to 55, we're talking about Jnana Yoga, or knowledge. It brings one to pure devotional service. Lord Chaitanya came Vairagya Vidya Nidra Bhakti Yoga. Lord Chaitanya came 500 years ago to teach Jnana and Vairagya, which were lead one to pure devotional service. Can you hear? Can you hear now? Can you hear now?
Yes.
All right. So earlier in the Bhagavad-Gita, it said that Brahmano hi patistaham, the one who's performing devotional service unfailing, comes to the level of Brahman. And here it's also saying the same thing, Brahmabhuta, being one with the Absolute. But we should not be confused by these statements. It doesn't mean that we are Maya bodies, or that the becoming one with the Absolute is the merging into the Brahma Yoti, and that's the end of our existence. The Maya bodies, they want Brahma Nitya Jagat Sat Brahma Jagat Nitya. The Maya bodies say that this material world is false and Brahman is real. What was that? Jagat Nitya, no, I forgot. Anyway, so when Lord Chaitanya was in Benares, he was chanting and dancing, and Benares was the seat of the Mayavadis, impersonalists, Prakasananda Saraswati. That was not, it's not confused. Prakasananda and Prabodhananda were two different personalities. Prabodhananda was a great Vaishnava, and Prakasananda was a Mayavadi, the leader of the Mayavadi sannyasis in Benares. So he asked about Lord Chaitanya, and he was told Lord Chaitanya was chanting and dancing in Benares, and he was a sannyasi. Lord Chaitanya took Mayavadi sannyas because at that time that was a social custom, a social convention, but he was never a Mayavadi, and he didn't mix with the Mayavadis. But one time they invited Lord Chaitanya to come to meet them. So Lord Chaitanya went there to meet the Mayavadis. And as soon as he got there, he sat down in a place where people leave their shoes and wash their feet. So Prakasananda Saraswati went over and grabbed his hand and said, "Why are you sitting in this filthy place? You come and sit with us." So Lord Chaitanya went there and sat with them. And then Prakasananda Saraswati asked him, "You're a Vedanta, you're a sannyasi, why don't you study Vedanta? Sannyasis are supposed to study Vedanta and think that everything, the absolute truth is merging into Brahman." Lord Chaitanya replied that my spiritual master called me a fool, and he said, "You can't study Vedanta, you should just chant and dance." So Lord Chaitanya was doing that, but so the Mayavadis gave their commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Then Lord Chaitanya said that I understand the Vedanta Sutra, But your commentary is like the clouds that cover the sun. The sun can never be covered, but it appears to be covered by the clouds. So it said that the Vedanta Sutra philosophy is very clear, but your interpretation is not correct. And you given the Shankaracharya gave an imaginary interpretation of the Vedanta Sutra. Then Lord Chaitanya explained to them the real meaning of Vedanta Sutra. Achinta Veda Veda Tattva, that we are simultaneously one and different in the Absolute. And becoming one with the Absolute is not our goal or not our desire. So this oneness means one in desire, or one in understanding our real constitutional position as eternal servant of Krishna. Gopi Bharta Kamala Das Das Anudas. We never become Krishna, but we're always the servant of Krishna. We're always subordinate to Krishna. So, being one with the Absolute means being one in desire. So, devotee is one in desire, and means that he only wants to please Krishna. He has no other interest. So this verse is the beginning of spiritual life. When one understands that he's not this body, Aham Brahmasmi, that I'm a spirit soul, and that I have a spiritual identity, and I have an eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord. But in a conditioned state, we think we're this body, Hamameti, and everything is me, it belongs to me, I, me, mine. So, until one is free from material contamination, he cannot understand that I'm not this body. And he still thinks that this body and this soul are attached to each other. But when one becomes liberated state, then he understands he's not this body, that we're a spirit soul. So this is a very elevated position, and this is the whole meaning of Bhagavad-Gita, to teach people that we're not this body, that we're a spirit soul. In the very beginning, from the second chapter to the 18th chapter, the whole idea is to let people understand what is what and who's who. Otherwise, the whole material world is going on under false names and false forms. Everyone's thinking that I'm so-and-so, I'm American, or I'm Indian, or I'm Chinese, and this is my car, and this is my family, this is my bank balance, everything belongs to me. Prahlad Maharaj says this is called chewing the chewed. You get a piece of sugar cane and you chew it for some time and spit it out. Then you take it back and chew it again, but it has no taste. So everybody in the material world, they're chewing the chew. They're trying to get some enjoyment out of the material world because they think we belong here. But they're never satisfied. People have to make the most money. One devotee has a friend who is a millionaire. He has 10 cars, 10 houses, 10 wives, 10 everything. But he's not satisfied. He said to the devotee that your lifestyle is better than mine. I'd rather be a devotee than have what I have, because I'm always in anxiety about keeping my mind, about everything. My whole life's full of anxiety. Can't sleep at night because people have so much anxiety about their money and their business and this and that. So The material world is like that. It is promising. People think in the future somehow they're going to be happy. But it's the trick of Maya, Maya Sukaya. So, this verse is very important and then often quoted by devotees in Srila Prabhupada. And it says in the absolute conception there's no difference between the server and served and the servitor, yet there is this distinction is there in a higher spiritual sense. So we know that the material world is 1/4 of the creation, and 3/4 of the creation is the Vaikuntha planets and Golok Vrindavan. And Golok Vrindavan is the biggest of all the planets. And there, in Vaikuntha and Golok, there is spiritual variegatedness. Where in the Brahma Yoti, there's no variegatedness. The spirit soul go to Brahma Yoti, they simply become a particle of the effulgence of the Lord. And it's not a satisfying position. And because they're not satisfied, they end up taking shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. When they go to the Brahma Yoti, they run the risk of coming back in the material world to open hospitals and schools and do philanthropic work. But if you go to Vaikuntha, you go to Lok, then there's no risk coming back again to the material world. Krishna says that there's 2 kinds of living entities, those who are fallible and those who are infallible. Material world, everyone's fallible, which means we have to take birth, repeated birth and death, and go through this, stay in the material world. And those who are infallible in the spiritual world are there permanently. But we shouldn't think, people think there's something material, something spiritual that doesn't have any form. They were often envious of Srila Prabhupada for riding in a big car. They say, you're a spiritual person, why are you riding in a big car? And Prabhupada didn't care what kind of car he rode in, but devotees wanted to honor Srila Prabhupada, so they got him the best car. And Prabhupada said this car was not so wonderful. The spiritual master should have a gold car. What's this car? It's so wonderful. It's just steel and glass and plastic. What is it? It's so wonderful about it. So people don't understand that the variety is there in the spiritual world, and in the material world, Rupa Goswami says, Nirvandan Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagya Uchite. So we could use everything in the material world for the service of Krishna. We don't reject anything. We use the computer for preaching. We use the microphone for speaking about Krishna. We use the car to go to the temple, to go to programs. So we utilize everything for Krishna's service. So in this way, we're taking advantage of whatever is there to preach Krishna consciousness. One man went to Mayapur and said to Prabhupada, why did you make this temple here? What do you need a temple for? And Prabhupada said, well, if I didn't have a temple here, you wouldn't have come here. So we had this temple, not for our sense gratification, but we had the temple to attract people to Krishna consciousness. In this way, people will begin to understand that they're wasting their human form of life. The human form of life is rarely achieved. 8,400,000 species of life in this world, beginning with the aquatics, then the trees, insects, reptiles, beasts, birds, and finally human beings. So out of 8,400,000 species, only 400,000 are human beings. And of that 400,000, only a small number are actually civilized human being. A civilized human being is one who accepts the spiritual master and follows the instructions given in the Vedic literature, in the instructions of the spiritual master, and the instructions in the spiritual books like Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and whatever was written by Vyasadeva. Otherwise, Baba said it's just a cat and dog civilization. People are just going here and there, trying to satisfy their senses like the cats and dogs, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. The cats and dogs are eating, and the human beings are eating. The cats and dogs are sleeping, human beings are sleeping. But the mating, the cats and dogs are mating, human beings are mating. And sleeping, dogs and cats and dogs are sleeping, and human beings are sleeping. So, but the human beings are doing it in a more refined way, or a more polished way than the cats and dogs who live in the street. They get a nice apartment or a nice bed and this and that. But there's no difference. The difference is, in the human form of life, a tattva brahma jignasa, we can inquire about the absolute truth, why I'm here, why I've come in this material world, what is my identity. But people don't know that, because the government and the leaders of society are also nothing more than cats and dogs. They elect one tiger as the president, and he stays for some years, and then they elected another lion to be president. So they don't know anything about leading the people. Maharaj Yudhishthira, when he was the king of the world, he was interested in the welfare of the people, and he made sure that everyone was happy in his kingdom. The cows were happy. The cows were so happy that when they milk bags were overflowing, muddying the pasturing grounds. The people were happy. They didn't have to die. They didn't even have to die if they didn't want to. So, because the weather was always nice, everything was arranged by the king so people could live simple spiritual life and be happy. Not this modern civilization which is exploiting the material energy, and it will have to collapse in a very short time. This modern civilization will not be able to continue because they're contaminating all the resources. The water is contaminated, the air is contaminated, they're taking the oil out of the earth, they're artificially growing the crops, the food, everything has been contaminated in this age. So to reverse the situation is practically impossible. But the Krishna conscious movement is predicted by Lord Chaitanya for 10,000 years. This Krishna conscious movement will go on, and people will begin to realize that they're nothing better in this world than Krishna consciousness. So I'm going to read the second part of the purport. In the mere material concept of life, when one works for sense gratification, there is misery. But in the absolute world, when one is engaged in pure devotional service, there's no misery. So, a Brahma, Bhuva, and a Loka, the highest planet down to the lowest, are all places of repeated birth and death, where people are suffering. Birth, death, old age, and disease. When birth is the child in the womb is suffering, As soon as he comes out of the womb, he is suffering. The child can't say what his problem is. So the child cries because bugs are biting him, but they think he's hungry, so they give him food, or this and that. Until the child grows up, he's still not, consciousness is not developed. So he suffers. And throughout our lives, we suffer. But people think they're not suffering. You tell someone you're suffering, they say, I'm not suffering. You say, if you didn't suffer, you couldn't enjoy. But if people aren't suffering, why there's so many hospitals, why there's so many medical shops, why there's so many doctors? And people are suffering, but they don't want to admit it. They think that it's only natural to suffer. So, these difference. The devotees in Krishna consciousness have nothing to lament or desire. As God is full, a living entity is engaged in in God's service, and Krishna consciousness becomes also full in himself. So, Ishavasham Idam Sarvam said in the Upanishad that we only accept the bare necessities of life. In that way, we can devote our attention, place our attention on performing devotional service. If we're deviated by the material world, then it's difficult to perform devotional service. So devotional service begins with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, following the 9 processes of devotional service. And at the time of initiation, everyone promises to chant 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Because this is the Yuga Dharma. Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalo, Kuluna, Stevan, Stevan, Gatyur, and Yata. So, this is the most important thing. Time of initiation, we promise to chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulating principles: no meeting, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. This way, Srila Prabhupada said that he came to make first-class men. Everybody in the world, close Sudra Sambhava, everyone's less than Sudra in this age. There are no Brahmas, no Kshatriyas, no Vaishyas, only Sudras or less than Sudras. And we know that people don't think there's anything wrong with abortion, don't think there's anything wrong with slaughterhouses. So many things are going on in this world that people think it's okay. The scientists, the doctors, they say abortion is okay. You're not killing, it's just a lump of matter. It's not really anything. You're not doing anything wrong. But we know different. Time of conception, the living entity enters the womb and it starts to grow. If something is growing, how can they say it's just a lump of matter? Life doesn't come from chemicals. Chemicals, you can't take chemicals and make life, even though they're promising in the future they're going to produce life in the laboratory. But life doesn't come from chemicals, life comes from life. So as soon as the child is conceived in the womb, it begins to grow. It's a living entity. So abortion is, they're killing the living entity in the womb. Because they're doing that, they'll never see the light, the light of day. They'll have to take birth and get aborted for as many times as they commit abortions. So people don't know this, that they're murdering the living entity in the womb. And so many other things are going on in this world that people don't know is wrong. But Srila Prabhupada came to make first-class men men who follow the four regular principles, no meeting, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. In this way, it solves all the problems. We close the slaughterhouses, we close the liquor shops, we close the gambling houses, and we stop the prostitution. And this way, the civilization, a real civilization, can flourish. Otherwise, there's no chance of anything, of the civilization flourishing, as long as they're killing the cow in the slaughterhouse. Then there can't be any peace in this world. They formed the United Nations in America, with all the countries in the world, to make peace in the world. But all they've done is increase the number of flags that are flapping there. They can't make peace in the world because there's no possibility of having peace in the world as long as the slaughterhouses are there, as long as they're killing the cows in the slaughterhouse. The cow is a sacred animal and most dear to Krishna, and therefore the cows should be protected. But they don't know that. They're mistreating the cows, mistreating the animals. There's just so many animals sent to the slaughterhouse every year, and there has to be a reaction. So the reaction to that is war. As long as the slaughterhouses are open, there has to be war where people are being slaughtered. So this is going on. It says, because a pure devotee has no thought other than Krishna, he's naturally always joyful. He does not lament for any material loss or gain because he's full in service of the Lord. So it's natural, if you lose something, to lament. If you gain something, to be happy. But a pure devotee is neutral, because he knows that everything in this world is temporary, and therefore we should not be attached to anything. The Mayavadis say, when someone wants to give them money, they go, no, no. But we say more and more, because we can utilize it in Krishna's service. The Prabhupada himself lived a very simple life, but he had so many temples and so many nice facilities. But he only accepted, he kept his life simple. And he didn't desire to have anything more than what is required in the basic necessities of life. Says he has no desire for material enjoyment because he knows that every living entity is the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and therefore eternally a servant. He does not see in the material world someone as higher and someone as lower. Higher and lower positions are ephemeral. That body has nothing to do with ephemeral appearance and disappearance. For him, stone and gold are of an equal value. The word ephemeral means lasting for a short time. So the learned Brahmin, he sees with equal vision a dog, an elephant, a cow, or a Brahmin. He sees everyone with an equal vision, sees everyone as a spirit soul, eternal servant of Krishna. Of course, we do make distinction. The tiger comes to eat you, you don't embrace it because it's spirit soul. Last night we heard about Prithu Das Prabhu said that a crocodile was chasing him, was trying to catch him and eat him. Somehow he got saved. So the spirit soul is there, but we have to be a little cautious and be practical. But we still don't make distinctions between these things. When Prabhupada was in France, he went to see the mayor in City Hall. So when the mayor came in, everybody had to stand up. They asked Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, you have to stand up. And Prabhupada says, stand up for who? And Prabhupada didn't make a distinction that this is a big man or a little man. He refused to stand up. But there's everything according to time, place, and circumstance. So we don't want to give people a bad impression if we do something wrong. But Prabhupada didn't feel it was necessary to stand up for this man who is just this ordinary sense gratifier, who gave some speech trying to say that he was doing something spiritual. But Prabhupada gave a nice lecture explaining how everything should be done. This is the Brahma Bhuta stage. This stage is attained very easily by the pure devotee. In that stage of existence, the idea of becoming one with the Supreme and annihilating one's individuality becomes hellish, and the idea of attaining the heavenly kingdom becomes phantasmagoria. Like phantasmagoria means some illusion, like horse eggs or pie in the sky. The senses are like broken serpent's teeth. As there is no fear of a serpent with broken teeth, there is no fear from the senses when they are automatically controlled. The world is miserable for material infected persons, but for a devotee the entire world is as good as Vaikuntha, or the spiritual sky. The highest personalities in this material universe is no more significant than an ant for a devotee. Such a stage can be achieved by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, who preached devotional service in this age. Namo Mahavendaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namo Gurute Say Namaha. So, we are fortunate that we have come in this world at this time when Lord Chaitanya appeared 500 years ago. Before that, 5,000 years ago, Krishna appeared. And Krishna comes yuge, or after millennium, one day of Brahma, Krishna comes, has his pastimes, and Vrindavan, in this earthly Gokul, earthly planet, he has his pastimes in Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka. But he only comes, and at the same time, when Krishna appears, Lord Chaitanya appeared also. And Lord Chaitanya is the Yuga avatar, but Krishna Varam Krishnam Sangopanga. That Lord Chaitanya is the Yuga avatar, but he's covered. He's the Chana avatar. He comes in the role of a devotee. He's Bhakti avatar, and he's not blackish. His complexion is golden, because he comes in the mood of Srimati Radharani to taste the mellows, what Srimati Radharani enjoys. So Lord Chaitanya was golden on the outside, but blackish on the inside. He is actually Krishna, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana. No difference between Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna. And to get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, you have to get the mercy of Lord Nityananda. And this is very important. We have to pray to Lord Nityananda. We're the eternal servants of Lord Nityananda. And he's the Adi Guru, or he's the sitting in everyone's heart. And to get the mercy of Lord Nityananda, without the mercy of Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya, you can't get the mercy of Radha and Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya came 500 years ago and made it easy for people to attain pure devotional service simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. When Lord Chaitanya was in Navadvip, and he acted like a ordinary person, Nimai Pandit, he was a scholar, and he would defeat everybody. But then when he went to Gaya and met his spiritual master Ishvara Puri, he changed his mood, and he began the Sankirtan movement of the chanting of the holy name. And Chaitodarpana Marjanam, this chanting the holy name cleanses the heart of all the dirt accumulated for years together. So Lord Chaitanya introduced the Yuga Dharma, Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalo, Kaluna Stevana, Stevana, Steva, Gachiranyata. This is the Yuga Dharma, chanting the holy name. There's no other way, no other way, no other way. In other ages, people could do other things. But in this age, no one can do anything. No one can meditate, practice any kind of yoga, except for bhakti-yoga, or chanting the holy name. And so, I felt it's important that one accepts the Guru and the Parampara system, and by the mercy of the Guru, one can get the mercy of Krishna. And by the mercy of, if the Guru is pleased, the Krishna is pleased. If Krishna is pleased, then the Guru is pleased. So, we can't approach Krishna. No one can go to Krishna directly. If you want to meet the Prime Minister, you can't go to him and shake his hand. First you have to go to his security, his secretary, and make an appointment, and maybe you'll get to see him. In the same way, no one can think that I know Krishna. Many people, we approach people on the street, they say, yes, we know Krishna, we know God, but they're not doing anything spiritual. So you can't really know Krishna unless you get the mercy of the pure devotee who can take you to Krishna and give you that Sukriti, the qualification to know Krishna. You have to become qualified. Anyabhila sita sunyam jnana karma namatam anu Krishna no bhakti uttamam. That Rupa Goswami says this is the definition of pure devotional service free from jnana and karma. To practice pure devotional service, we have to give up all material contamination. We have to be free from the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, and come to pure goodness. In this way, we can obtain this platform, Brahmabhuta, which is the platform where no lamentation, one is always joyful. Of course, we're getting Paramvisar and Vartante, we're getting a higher taste. When you come to Krishna consciousness, you immediately get a higher taste. You immediately see that this chanting and dancing is more enjoyable than going to the movies or whatever people do nowadays. But going to nightclubs, taking intoxication. So by getting a higher taste, we can give up the lower taste. So one king, his name was Yamunacharya. He was became a great devotee, but still some thoughts came in his mind. When he thought of sex life, kings are always attached to so much sex life, he would spit at the thought in disgust. So this is the way we see the material world, and it's the lower taste. So by getting the higher taste, we can give it the lower taste. So it's not artificial. If we practice Krishna consciousness, we're now practicing sadhana bhakti, which is the practice. We have to follow the rules and regulations to come to sadhya bhakti. Well, sadhya means the goal, which is bhava, attaining pure love of God, which is preliminary stage to prema. So the goal is to attain prema pumartha mohan. This is the goal of the Krishna conscious movement, to attain love for Krishna. But we can't attain love for Krishna without going through the process by following the rules and regulations and purifying our consciousness. First we have to become pure. If you're not pure, then you'll not attain the goal. So we have to practice Krishna consciousness on a daily basis, not haphazardly. Every day we have to do the same activities. Srila Prabhupada was very strict. He would never deviated. Every day he did the same activities every day, very regulated. It's very important that we're regulated. He would take prasadam at a certain time, he'd sleep at a certain time, he'd translate at a certain time, he'd take massage at a certain time. Everything he did was very regulated. And this keeps the senses under control. If we control the senses, Prabhupada writes that over and above chanting Hare Krishna, one must control the senses. Because the senses are like wild horses. If they have wild horses, you have to put them in a corral, fence them in to keep them under control. But if somehow they get out of the fencing, then you can't control them, they're gone. So we have to keep our senses under control. Vajravegam manasakroda vegam is the first verse of Upadesh Amrita, nectar instruction. Control the senses. So this is the most important thing, and we can control our senses by living a regulated life, taking rest early, getting up early, chanting our 16 rounds very carefully, attentively, attending the Bhagavatam class, eating only Krishna prasadam. These things we must do until, even if one comes to the Baba's platform as a pure devotee, he still follows the rules and regulations just to set the example. So we have to be very strict with ourselves if we want to make advancement. Otherwise, if you're whimsical, it's like trying to boil water with an electric heater, and you turn on the heat to boil the water, then before it boils you turn off the heat. And you keep turning on the heat and turning it off, but the water will never boil because you're not steady in your devotional service. You're not steady with the electricity. So if we're not steady in our Krishna consciousness, then we can't expect to make advancement. We can't expect to reap the results of pure devotional service or make advancement in spiritual life. So this is we should always be very careful that after initiation, we follow the instructions of spiritual master, chant 16 rounds, follow the 4 regular principles, avoid the 10 offenses to the holy name. Especially the 10th offense is to not have complete faith in the holy name, to still maintain material attachments, even after hearing so many instructions on the subject matter. So if you're still materially attached, thinking I, me, mine, and inattentive while you're chanting your rounds, then this will block your advancement in Krishna consciousness. So even though we're still on the material platform, but we should still chant the holy name as much as possible, and try to hear when we're chanting japa. We should try to be attentive and just hear the holy name and nothing else. Even though the mind will wander, but still we have to bring it back and just hear the Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Here Prabhupada says when the senses are under control, it's like a serpent with broken teeth. There's no fear of a serpent with broken teeth. So if a devotee has full control of his senses, he has no fear of falling into the material world again. But as long as we're on the neophyte platform, Prabhupada said the trouble with his disciples were they were not afraid enough of Maya. And Davyesha Gunamaya Mama Maya Duratya, the Maya is very strong and can pull one away from Krishna consciousness at any moment. Except for those who surrendered. If you surrender unto Krishna, then you can conquer over Maya. And that's the last word in Bhagavad-Gita. Sarvadhara Priksaja, Mamekam Saranam Braja, Ham Tvam Sarvapaveno, Mokshashai Mahasuchaha. So the whole idea is to surrender our lives and dedicate our lives to Krishna consciousness and not do anything else. I'm going to stop there. Any comments, questions? Srila Prabhupada ki. Mantaraj Bhagavad Gita ki. Gaur Brahmanande.